Now we're going to talk about some common tools that you really don't need to buy. These are all really common things that when I first started sewing, I definitely thought that I needed. Now that I'm more experienced, I realize I don't need them. There are better ways to do the things that these tools are supposed to do, and I want to share that information with you. Of course, you can try these tools out if you want to, but I've found that they really aren't that necessary. This is tracing paper. You have to use it with the tracing wheel, and it works in a similar way to carbon paper. If you put the paper in between two layers of fabric and you run the tracing wheel along that fabric, it's supposed to leave a line that you can then sew over and wash away. Whenever I use it, I can't ever get a line that I can see, and it smudges where I set my hand down. It's just really annoying to use, and I've found a lot better ways to make marks on fabric. My favorite one is an air erasable marking pen, which we talked about in a previous video. This is the tracing wheel that you would use with tracing paper. This one in particular is called a serrated edge wheel, which is the most common one that you can find. There's also a smooth edge wheel, but it's a lot harder to find. The idea is that when you run this along the fabric with the tracing paper on the opposite side of the fabric, it makes a dotted line. Of course, like I explained in the previous section when I talked about tracing paper, I can rarely get a line that I can use and even see, and then my hand smudges it, and it's just a big old mess, and I hate it. Also, with the points as dull as they are, they can damage delicate fabrics, like if you're using a chiffon or a satin. They can make holes and dents in that fabric, and you really just don't want that. This is a rotary cutter. So when I first started sewing, I thought I desperately needed a rotary cutter. Like, I can't sew without a rotary cutter. I have to have it. Oh my gosh. So I bought one and I hated it, and I bought another one and I hated that. You just can't get a clean, continuous line. No matter which brand of rotary cutter I bought, even if I changed the blades, it never would cut all the way. I would have like a dashed cut line. You also need to buy a cutting mat to use with it because it is a sharp blade and it will damage tables, floors, whatever. Also, if you use a commercial pattern, i.e. a Simplicity pattern or a McCall's pattern, and it has that really thin paper, if you use a rotary cutter with that pattern paper, over time, that cutter will shave off little pieces of that pattern until it is a completely different shape than when you started. And that just makes for a lot of frustration that nobody needs. Really, just stick with scissors, honestly. Dressmaker pins I was very confused by when I started sewing because they're called dressmaker pins. Sewers should be able to use them. But dressmaker pins are shorter and thicker than quilter's pins. It can be hard to put them through the threads of the fabric, and they can make holes in the fabric no matter the weight, chiffons all the way to denim. So just go with quilter's pins. They glide in a lot smoother and you'll just be a lot happier.